Still waiting for your prince, even though he promised that he was going to come in? You know, there's a movie that I absolutely love, and it's called The Princess Bride. And this movie, if you haven't heard of it or you haven't checked it out in a while, go watch it. It's just the best. Anyway, for those who haven't seen it, I'm just going to briefly say, there was a boy and a girl. The girl, she had a farm, and then the boy worked on the farm, and she called him Farm Boy. And every day she would ask him to do something for her, and she liked to taunt him and tease him. Nothing brought her greater pleasure, and he would say, "As you wish," each time. And she suddenly realized one day that "as you wish," when he would do those small actions for her, that he didn't and he'd just do them, that he actually was saying, "I love you." And then came the day where she realized that she loved him too. And she probably had always loved him because she was always having so much fun playing with him. I mean, there gets to be a point where you realize, oh, I'm actually really attracted. And so he had made a promise to her. He said, "Hear this now, I will always come for you," because she was upset because he had to go away and make his fortune. And she's like, "I don't know if you're going to come back. I fear I'm never going to see you again." And he says, "Hear this now, I will always come for you." But then, unfortunately, word got back to her that a pirate ship had attacked on the high seas. And she thought her true love was gone forever. And so she locked herself up in her room, and she did not eat or sleep or do anything. She said, "I will never love again." Then what happens is basically this Prince Humperdinck, in the book it's more clear, he's so angry at the kingdom of Gilder for sending him a princess that had turned out to actually be bald, because she had been, they'd said that she was like the most beautiful princess, but she had a wig and she had hats, and she always wore these hats, and I guess he got his pride hurt. So in order to start a war with Gilder, what he wanted to do was he was going to marry the most beautiful common girl in the whole village, and then he was going to kill her on the wedding night and blame it on Gilder. That was the plan. So he picks Buttercup. Now, when the king picks you, or the prince picks you, and you're just a common girl, she really didn't have a choice. It was either that or she was going to basically lose everything. But she didn't love him. Well, the word gets back to Wesley, is her true love's name. And Wesley is kind of in disguise. So he shows up as the Dread Pirate Roberts, which is the character that had basically killed Wesley, presumably. Anyway, there's an amazing fight scene where he's basically, he bests a giant, he bests the best swordsman, and then he comes and he beats the last of them, Vicini, and Vicini actually dies but Wesley has a mask on the whole time, and he's dressed all in black. And I mean, Buttercup is she's blindfolded most of the time, so she doesn't know. She can't really tell. She can't see his mannerisms. She doesn't know. And then he takes her blindfold off, and she's basically looking at him. He's like, "I know who you are. You're the Dread Pirate Roberts. Admit it." And he's like, "With pride." He's like, "What can I do for you?" And she's like, "You can die slowly." And he's like, "What's the vitriol for?" And she's like, "You killed my love." And of course Wesley is still pretending, and he's like, "I remember this farm boy of yours." And it's he said, please, I need to live." And I asked him why, what's so important, and he said, "True love." And then he described a woman of beauty, and I can only assume he meant you, but maybe he should have just he'd be glad that he never got to see what you've become. And she's like, what am I? It's like, faithfulness, undying faithfulness. Tell me, before he died, like, did you leave and off with that prince the same day? And she's like, how dare you? And she pushes him down the hill. Like, they get into this argument. You can find this all on YouTube. It's a really good little fight scene. But basically, she's pissed off at him because he's accusing her of having not been faithful to Wesley. And so then what happens is she pushes him down the hill, and he says, as you wish. But the story's not over. So they roll down the hill, because she's like, oh no, it's my Wesley. What have I done? I pushed him down the hill. I will follow after him. And then they're down at the bottom. He's like, I told you I would come for you. Why didn't you wait for me? And she's like, well, you were dead. And he's like, death cannot stop true love. All it can do is delay it for a while. And she's like, I will never doubt again. And he's like, there'll never be a need. So then fast forward, they're going through the fire swamp. Wesley explains about how the Dread Pirate Roberts was always just like an illusion, because really what was going on is that they had one captain and that had been named the Dread Pirate Roberts, and then he'd retire and he'd take somebody else on and pretend to be the first mate, calling the guy Roberts, and then there was like the infamy of the name would live on, but it would be a different person playing at each time. And it's like the other ones would just reverse the roles. So Wesley's like, so right now I'm the Dread Pirate Roberts, but now that I've made my fortune, I'm ready to take you, and we shall retire, and I'll bring somebody else on. And he'd been looking for somebody. In the end, actually the swordsman ends up getting the role. But basically, they get out of the fire swamp, which is really cool. And the prince is waiting for them. And the prince is about to kill Wesley. And she's like, will you promise not to hurt him if I go with you? And so they say that nothing's going to happen to Wesley, but we all know something happens to Wesley. He gets taken down into the pit of despair, and he's tortured. He's tortured. And Wesley's like, oh, so it's to be torture. I can handle torture. And it's like, no, not this torture. Not this one. This is sucking the life out of you. Like, this is the machine. Nobody's going to be able to withstand the machine. Like, it really sucks 1 year of their life away. Like, there's all these, like, suction cups and everything. Anyway, so Buttercup is back in the castle, and she has a nightmare. And in the nightmare, she's married the prince, and she's standing as the queen, and an old woman is like, boo, you had love in your hands, and you gave it up. True love saved her in the fire swamp, and she treated it like garbage. So bow down to her. Bow down to the queen of filth, the queen of refuse, the queen of putrescence. The idea is like, she went and married another when her true love still lives. And I mean, I get it. I totally get it. Because, I have a true love. And I have not been able to stop thinking about him. And I love him, and there's no one else. So anyway, Buttercup wakes up from this nightmare, and she goes to the prince. She's like, it's come to this. I love Wesley. I always have, and I know that I always will. And if you tell me I must marry you, please know I will be dead in the morning. And so the prince kind of deceives her and says, write a copy of 4 letters or 3 letters or something, and I'll send them my fastest ships. And we'll try to get to the prince, or we'll try to get to your Wesley on his ship. And it's like, he knows he's not there. He knows he's down in the pit of despair. He's not on his ship. And Wesley knew it the second Buttercup went away. He's like, we're not going to even pretend. Like, I know. I'm dead, aren't I? It's like, she's gone off with him, and I'm dead. Either way. I knew it, but she didn't know it. And yeah, she didn't actually spare me. So anyway, she thinks that she has sent out the letters, and she thinks that they are going to reach Wesley and that he's going to come for her. And she's like, my Wesley will come for me. And then it gets to a point, and this is my favorite part in the movie, where she comes up and she finds out it's like the day before the wedding. And the prince is like, my dulcet darling, we will have every ship in our armada. And she's like, every ship except the ones you sent, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, of course. It's like, you never sent the letters. You never sent the ships. Doesn't matter. My Wesley will come for me anyway. And he's like, you're a fool to believe that. And she's like, yes, I am a fool. But you know what? It doesn't matter. You are a coward. And like, she basically goes into a whole speech. It's like, Wesley and I are bound by something stronger than anything you ever know. And you cannot track that, not with 1,000 bloodhounds. You cannot break it, not with 1,000 swords. And he locks, like, she basically says, and when I say you're a coward, I can't remember the exact words, but basically she tells him it's like the most slimiest coward in the world. Like, she really lays into him. Again, it's a great scene. And it ends with Prince Humperdinck locking her in the room. He goes down to the pit of despair, and he actually kills Wesley. He's like, it's you guys really love each other, and because you truly love each other, you are going to suffer greater than no man has ever suffered before. And he really does crank it up all the way up to 50 and sucks every last bit of life out of Wesley, and Wesley is dead. And of course, this cuts to little Fred Savage, who's like, you're telling the story wrong, Grandpa. There's no way that Wesley's not supposed to be dead. He's just faking, isn't he? And he's like, no, he's dead. But Inigo and Fezzik, the ones that are like the giant and the swordsman, they were hearing this, and they're like, we need the man in black. Vicini's dead. We need the man in black to do what we need to do. And they're like, he's smarter. So then they're like, oh, there he is. His cry. His true love is getting married tomorrow. No man would have any more agony than that. So they go and find him. And then they realize he's dead. But he's not all dead. He's just like mostly dead. So they get him to Miracle Max. And Miracle Max gives him some sort of magical potion pill thing that kind of starts to bring him back to life. But he's got no strength. And so in all this time, Buttercup is getting ready for this wedding, and she's like, Wesley will always come for me. And she's like, if he doesn't come for me, I'm going to be dead, because I can't live in a world if I have to live with this prince and try to carry on if my true love is dead. So it's like, no, it's not happening. I would rather kill myself. I mean, it's like a little bit like Romeo and Juliet, don't you think? It's like, I can't live in a world without my love. And so she gets to this point where she's like, there's fighting coming outside the gates. And yes, Wesley is fighting. And she's like, Wesley will come for me. Wesley will come for me. And she's saying that to herself the whole time as she's getting married to this prince. And of course, he fakes it to make it seem like they're married. Of course, she doesn't actually say yes, but yeah, so she thought that she actually got married. And then she's like, she goes into her little chamber and she's about to kill herself, but Wesley's on the bed already. He managed to get to the bed. And he's laying there and he's like, there's a shortage of perfect breasts in the world. It would be a shame to damage yours. I mean, this movie, the wit. But it just like, he came for her. He came for her. And like, she had really thought that it wouldn't happen. But that's the thing. It's like true love. Conquering everything. And, you know, sometimes, like, what if Buttercup had gotten mad at Wesley for being there on the bed? She's like, if she had turned around and been like, I waited for you and I got married and I'm mad at you now because like you didn't come, because she doesn't know how weak he is in his strength. Like, she doesn't know what he's been through. She doesn't know that he was literally dead. She doesn't know that he was tortured. She doesn't know all the fighting that he had to do and how difficult it was to get into the castle in the first place. Like, she has no idea. But if she had turned to him and been like, you know what? Like, dude, like, what the hell? Like, I've been waiting for you. Where were you? I've been waiting. Like, that's called punishing the hero, which is what my friend Annie Lala says. So, how does this really tie into punishing the prince? Okay, so say you've been waiting a really, really long time. And say that just out of the blue, they show up. And you're not quite sure if it's them, but there's so many signs that it's them. And, they say things, even in a disguise, they kind of say things like you're pretty sure it's them. And then, they kind of reach out. They kind of give more hints that they will come for you, that they are working through, that they are finding their courage to come forward, to make good on their promise. But then, even though you're so sure that they were going to come for you right away, that they weren't going to let you wait another moment, now they're not there anymore? Suddenly disappeared? What's going on? Well, you can think that they were just not, like they were mad at you, or that they're not going to come through. Like, you can do that. You can absolutely do that. But what if, maybe not regular torture, but what if they're dealing with their own stuff now because they've made a promise, and now they have to deal with their shadows, and maybe there's one or two more dragons that they need to fight, and that when you showed them that, yes, I will never doubt again, I love you, it's you, it's always going to be you, I love you, I always have, and I always will, and I never forgot, and I know that you will always come for me. Maybe they do need to go and fight one more dragon, and maybe they can't say it yet, or maybe there's a surprise coming. But that's why you really need to wait. And yeah, sometimes anxiety is a bitch, okay? Sometimes you start to think in your head, it's like, I don't understand. Like, they said they were coming for me, and now everything's radio silence again. What happened? And you can start to get anxious. When it's true love, every single little trigger comes up. I've recognized this. No matter how much work I've already done on myself, no matter the fact that I was never like this in any other, I wouldn't even say relationship. The only real relationship I had was a 13-year trauma bond. And in that time, I just remember that, like, I had been like, I'm playing this differently. Like, he had been, like, he got on a call with me. He set a date right away. And I had set it out, I think, for like a week out or something like that. And then he had basically been like, okay, well, I'm going to show up at your work because I'm friends with the manager. I'm going to show up at your work, and I'm going to take you out for coffee on your break. And so he did that, and then he showed up the next day, and he took me out again. And he showed up the next day after that for our date. And then he's like, so are you looking for a boyfriend? And I'm like, why? Are you offering? And that kind of threw him. But then it was like, I didn't kiss him goodnight. And then the next day, he called me up again. And he's like, I want to hang out with you. And I'm like, well, I'm actually just planning to watch Gossip Girl, because that was the one that was on. And he's like, well, what if I watch with you? So I'm like, oh, I had never been love bombed before in my life like that. So I had no concept of what this actually was. Like, this was moving too fast. Now I do, but before I didn't. So I'm like, oh, he really likes me. And he just kept it up, like, every single day. And then he would call me every single day. So I never really had that distance. And like, then before that, with another one that was only like a 6-month situationship when I was 20. This guy had shown up and he had acted all interested, and he had treated me basically like I'd just dropped out of the sky, and he's like, I can't believe this. I can't believe this connection. And then he went, I think it was like 2 weeks or something without calling me. And then suddenly he called me up, and I was in the middle of something. I was just doing my own thing. I was working on stuff, and he's like, don't hate me. And I'm like, for what? And he's like, well, it's been like, I don't even remember how long it had been. Maybe it was a week or so. I mean, we'd only had one date. So, I mean, I didn't really think about it too much, but then he's like, don't hate me. And I'm like, okay, am I supposed to? Like, I was just living my life. I mean, we had an awesome date. I mean, I just figured you were busy. And I've been in school, and I'm doing my fan fiction stuff, and like, why would I hate you? But then I'm like, oh, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm actually supposed to care more about this. I mean, I was just like, yeah. So I went from thinking it's just nothing, like it's fine, then realizing that I was being put into a situationship. And then finally I'm like, you didn't call me for 3 weeks. And we had been going out for about 6 months. I'm like, if you want to break up, just break up with me. And he said, no, I don't want to break up. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll give you one more chance. And then this is at the point where I kind of picked up on the fact that he was interested in somebody else, and he was using me as a placeholder. And I'm like, I'm not no goddamn placeholder. I'm badass. Like, no, I don't deserve this. So I picked up my high heels and I put them back on, and I put my sundress on, and I walked out of there while they were still sleeping, because we'd gone over to her place because she was his friend. And I'm like, I just never saw him again. So, I mean, since this is public, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's out there or if this will ever get back to him. I don't know if he's in the personal development space or if his wife is, but, you know, like, yeah, no. That wasn't cool. And I still wish him well, because, you know, maybe he had his own issues and he didn't know how to actually say, yeah, I want to break up. Or maybe he realized, like, I was pretty damn good looking even in my 20s. Anyway, the point I want to get at, though, is that people have their own things that they're dealing with. And if you've got your insecurities coming up, try to really see it as like, okay, I'm feeling anxious. Why am I feeling anxious? Okay, I'm feeling a little like freaked out now because I went and took action and now everything's coming up. You know what? Courage. Courage and kindness. And I mean, if it's true love, they will come for you. They will come for you. And I mean, if you're the one who, if the ball is in your court, because they've already signaled that they're open, they're dockable, you can come in, well then, it's courage. Heroes welcome, waiting in the arms of your true love. So, have courage. And for those who have already put the follow-up out there and been like responding and saying, I'm open, maybe your true love is just going through something. They might need to work through something. Or maybe they're at a physical distance and they are en route. And you know, if they're jet-lagged, it's okay for them to rest. But you know, tomorrow I'm going to be making a cake. Or maybe cupcakes. I'm thinking of making 41 cupcakes. Just something about that number seems right to me. And I mean, I've got some icing, some bluish and purple sprinkles. I mean, I couldn't find all purple, but I really wanted purple. And I mean, blue is also a really nice color. I love the color blue. There's just something about a really nice shade of blue. Anyway, I have an interview that I'm going to be recording with a friend, and it's going to be epic. If you want to check it out later, you can always go and check out my my business channel. It is now inside of the links in the bio in my link tree if you do want to know more about the birth side of what I do. And I mean, I'm going to be putting interviews on there. If you are in the birth community, I would really appreciate it if you're looking to get some more exposure. I'm looking to blow my channel up, and I'm going to be growing my audience. Like, that is one of my goals, especially through 2025. So now that I have my program, and now that I have my book, and now that I've refined things, and I've figured out my paths of how I'm going to do my coaching to protect my time and to keep my client base small, like for working with me one-to-one, but still have my program and other paths to getting my stuff. Like, I really want to get this out there. So part of my goal is to interview others in this area of holistic health and wellness and mindset, and anything that's going to really appeal to women who are in that mindset of holistic health and wellness for motherhood and pregnancy and birth and even preconception. And that's where my channel's at. So I love you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.